Welcome to the Legal Interview Project. The Legal Interview Project is a collection of teens working towards making a repository of information, including informational interviews for how to get into law. Today I'm joined by the Honorable Judge Beau Miller of the 190th Judicial District Court, who attended the University of Texas at Austin School of Law. It's great to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Just like looking at your job as a judge, what does your day-to-day look like? You get into the office, sit on the bench. What do you do?
Okay, so I'm a civil judge. So in Harris County, we do it by field, if you will. So there's a criminal field of judges. There are like 29 of them. We have a family division. There are 9 of them. We have juvenile judges, and I'm a civil judge. So I only hear cases involving civil matters, which basically is just the exclusion of the criminal courts and the family courts and the juvenile. So we handle land disputes and contract issues, breaches of contract. It might be fun to know that we had a case involving Megan Thee Stallion, Megan Pete, and she wanted to release her Sugar album back in 2019, and I was the judge that allowed her to do that. So we handle those kind of things. ExxonMobil's been in the court asking for billions of dollars or to prevent billions of dollars being lost. And then we deal with car wreck cases as well. So we handle a lot of various things in our court. So my day-to-day is a little different, depending on what we need to do that week. So I have 2,500 cases on my docket, which is pretty large. It's a lot of cases. We fit pretty well within how many cases other courts have,
Mhm.
but all courts here, the 24 civil courts, have a big docket. So Mondays we have our hearing docket. Sometimes lawyers can agree to hear matters, motions, if you will, on a submission docket, which is just based on the motion response and no oral argument. But Mondays, those are due. And then also we have our oral hearing dockets that day. So we may have 30 motions set on a Monday that I get in the office. My team, my clerk, my law school students come in, and we meet from 8:30 until the end of the day, until our last hearing, uh, looking at the law, reading the motions and the responses, and then having the actual hearings those days too. So we don't read the case in front of the lawyers or look at the law in front of the lawyers. We have that done before we hear the case. And then Tuesdays through Fridays, we have jury trials. So we'll call a jury Tuesday morning. We will have jury selection, which is called voir dire, which is a French term. Uh, and Texas is the only state that says voir dire. It's voir dire in every other state. Yeah, so we'll sit a jury, and then we'll have the trial with the lawyers and the witnesses and the jury in the jury box. Tuesday through Friday. Sometimes we have bench trials, which are just trials in front of the court, where the court is the fact finder, which is the job of a jury. In a trial, the jury becomes the fact finder. They decide the issues of whatever fact questions the judge puts to them. But in a bench trial, the judge does all of that by themselves. So every week can be different based on what the needs of the courts are. But that's the general backdrop of what we do.
Yeah, and are all judges in court at the same time, or is it like a rotation?
So we each have our own court, and we have our own caseload, and a judge, for better terms, is the king of their castle or the queen of their castle. So we decide individually how we want to run our court. Generally, we all have docket days, but they may not fall on Mondays. And we all have jury trials, but they may handle it differently throughout the week. So I've got a really good colleague who she does her docket days on Wednesdays. That's when she hears her oral hearings. But here she tries her jury trials on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So it can depend greatly on whose court you're in. And so when you do practice law, if you do, the best thing to do is know the judge and how they do their things.
Just going back, you were an attorney for a pretty substantial time before you were a judge, right? How do you find those skills help you as a judge now?
Oh, I think they're vital to being a judge. And I was a trial lawyer too. So I went from UT Law School and I clerked for a federal judge in the Valley in McAllen, Texas. where I was, I did, let me stop back. I've never met a lawyer before I went to law school. So, and I don't think I'm not unique in that there are a lot of people that go into law that have no family relation or ever had experience in the courtroom. I had experience in the courtroom because someone stole something from me at LSU, and so I had to be a witness in the criminal trial, which was very intimidating to me. But that was my only experience. I did a little bit during law school, but my first real exposure to the courtroom was with Judge Hinojosa in the Valley. And so being in the courtroom matters. If you're a trial judge, you need to know how things operate. And so after that, I went and started my legal career, my lawyer career, working for a firm in which we went to court a lot and had jury trials. And so that's really helpful to know how the process works and how uh, various motions work and how trial works. So if you experience that as a litigator, as a trial judge, or as a trial lawyer, then when you become a judge, it's at least you have those tools. Now, being a judge is very different than being a trial attorney or a litigator for sure, but at least you have the background experience that helps guide you.
As a new judge, do you get like a trial period where you learn or and like get trained how to be a judge, or is it just like the training wheels go off and you get placed? So,
Yes. So we're elected. And I was elected in 2018, and my first day of work was January 1st, 2019, which is
mhm,
when I was sworn in. They send you to new judges school. The state has new judges school. It's kind of funny, little, you go to school. Uh, and I think it's a week program where they teach you the essentials of being a judge, from ethics uh, to evidence to the things that they think you need as a baseline. And that's all the new judges across the state go to that. And then we do something special in Harris County in our civil division where we had a 3 or 4 day intensive about various different aspects of the law that we would preside over. Because I was a products liability attorney
mhm.
and a defense attorney on certain things. Uh, but there are a lot of parts of the law that we deal with that I had never touched before in my legal career. And that's all. It can be intimidating because there's a learning curve, but it's also one of the things that makes it interesting and exciting to do is to learn something that you don't know. And that's a process I think as a lawyer, even as a person, we take throughout our entire career, our entire life, which was that we're supposed to be always learning something and how to adapt to life or the law or the parties in front of you.
Do you find that you're still learning things even after a while of being a judge?
Absolutely. You never stop learning something. I had a case not too long ago. It was a big oil and gas acquisition. So one company was buying the other company, and it was a breach of that contract. And the first day, it was all about CPAs and how they manage books. And I'm a former music education band director, graduated LSU in music education. So I never have exposure to CPA talk or language. Again, my parents weren't involved in that either. So that's kind of the fun part about being a judge is that you do things outside of your experience, but you also can be a master of this much of that much, and that much is what's important. And the same thing with practicing law. It's the same thing that you get a case and you may need to know this much about an expert field. And by the time you have the case, you're going to trial, you know it really well. And then it's just like kind of some people with exams like me, like once you're not in trial, once the exam is passed, you may forget it all. But the fun part is learning that sliver and being able to deliver on that, whether
Do you
to
find
your
that
lawyers or
sometimes expert witnesses or attorneys, they're like almost teachers of a field that you're learning about? Like in those first few days, that you have all these people and they're trying to teach it in their way, or like how do you mitigate that? How do you learn it and also understand that maybe they're trying to like only teach you some of it and not another part, which might be detrimental to them. So,
Yeah, so
yeah,
it's a great part of our system. I'm not supposed to, as judge, do any independent investigation on things. I don't go to, we have a big gas plant explosion, and I don't go and study valves and that gas necessarily. That's all done in court, and that's the learning curve.
yeah,
Hopefully they are opposing experts, and the experts will keep themselves honest. And as a lawyer, you would train your experts to be able to have that dialogue with the jury, especially, and the judge as well. And we judges, we have preliminary hearings in which experts may appear, and you start learning what they're going to testify to and what the problem was or what they think the problem wasn't. Again, it's a very interesting thing, but it can be very exciting to learn things that you didn't think you'd ever know, or you never knew existed, really.
yeah. I guess going back to the Megan Thee Stallion case, what was the issue there? That just sounds like a very cool case.
Yeah, so generally, I don't, it was not in
Yeah.
the underlying case was not in my court. I
Okay.
was just the judge that that determined that one issue. But she was in a fight with her record label, and the record label didn't want her to release the album. She had recorded it and she wanted to release it. She was on the front page of the Rolling Stone magazine that month. And so it's whether she had the right to drop the album or not under the law, and the elements that she met, that I thought she met, allowed her to do that.
Okay. Very cool. What was with music education? You worked as a music educator, right? You taught band. What made you want to go into law?
So yeah, so I went to LSU, which is a great school. I'm pro LSU a lot. I'd always wanted to be a conductor, an orchestra conductor or a band conductor, and so I went to LSU, which had a and still has an amazing program. And then went to Austin High School in Austin, Texas, to be a band director. And I learned that's not what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And so the teaching profession is amazing. I really enjoyed teaching and the students. It was really sad to leave that, but I just didn't see that future for me. And I tried to figure out what to do with a music education degree. And going to law school was one of the only shots you've had to do that without just maintaining it in the music field. Plus, I wanted to learn how to think. So schools will teach you what you need to know, but they don't teach you necessarily how to think about things. And so undergraduates, even in college, you're learning, A, B's, and C's of whatever field they are. Now they may be complicated A, B's, and C's, but you're still learning that. But then you go to law school to try to think, and they teach you how the law developed through a process to make you think about why the law developed the way it did, and then how you apply that in the current conditions in a current case. So that's why I wanted to go to law school. I will tell you this, I was really intimidated going to law school. I didn't know a lawyer. I was scared about the research part of that. Back in my day, all the all the research were done in these big old books, and you had to figure out how to pull cases out of those books to either be for one side or against the other side, if you will, and what the law is. And so, but I got to law school and realized that wasn't so hard. And so the big thing that was intimidating to me actually turned out not to be intimidating at all in the actual practice of it. And I eventually taught legal research and writing. I taught people how to research as a TA in law school. So I was able to take my teaching uh, career and skills and actually teach other law school students that which I was most scary to me, even to go to law school.
How do you find that research has changed? Do you think that's a positive because it's sort of gotten easier? Like you can go to Westlaw, you can look up a case on some issue. Do you think that that's something good for the legal field?
I think so. I think there's much more access to much more information, and because back when I was in school, you you could barely start researching things online. And then now it's the only way you do it. The books are archaic. So it has sped up the ability to practice law for sure, because you have everything at your fingertips and you can print cases and their case links to other sites. And so you can get buried in that for sure if you don't keep yourself on the straight and narrow and on the issue that's presented. But yeah, it's made it, I think, easier, and it definitely requires a different set of skills. But the first skill that's required is just be curious about what you're trying to look up, and that again can be really fascinating to see what the courts have decided and on the same set of facts or same basic set of facts and how different courts have approached it. So yeah, the legal research and writing part of it has developed, and of course AI is figuring its way into the practice of law in good ways and bad ways. And so we're trying to figure that out from a judicial standpoint, but also a legal practice standpoint.
Yeah. What do you find AI's like how do you find it creeping into law, you said?
So there have been some really bad instances where lawyers have used AI to draft a motion or
Mhm.
response to a motion, and AI has created cases. And so that is against our ethical standards as a lawyer, because you're supposed to do the work and make sure things are presented to the judge that are credible. And so if you're presenting a motion to the judge based on cases that AI has made up to make its point, then you could be held really responsible as the lawyer for presenting that to the judge. So I do think that AI currently has a place in researching, if you
Mhm.
will. I think the lawyer, I don't think the lawyer has the primary responsibility of researching and writing. You don't delegate that to AI. That's a human thing. That's a lawyer thing you have to do. But AI can check your work. That's totally fine for it to check your work as long as you make sure that those cases aren't made up. But the cases that you're finding should be the real cases. And also, what I understand from the practicing attorneys is that they can use it in their practice to create outlines for depositions, maybe even we call it discovery questions to the other side for them to answer based on the fact pattern that you feed AI. So if you have a trucking case and you're a plaintiff and you want really good questions that of the other side, you may use AI with your set of facts, and AI may give you a really good outline to go off of when you question the defendant, if you will, or defendant corporation. However, you still have to, as a lawyer, go through those questions and make sure they're the right questions for to ask, and that you don't miss something. So I think it's a good tool as long as you know how to use it, but you can't necessarily rely on it completely.
Yeah. On precedent cases, how do you find obviously appellate decisions are fundamental to the trial court, but do you find that sometimes people use too much law and too little facts, or vice versa?
Well, the adage is if the law's on your side, you pound the law. If the facts on the side, you pound the facts. If nothing's on your side, you pound the table. So it depends on your case and the judge. But we start with precedent. That's the most important thing for a trial judge is what the law is. Because my primary job is to follow the law. And I dare say that we have this conversation in the United States right now about judges not following the law. And my guess is that we all do our best to follow the law. There are just sometimes when there are new set of circumstances or facts, and you're trying to figure out how to apply the law to those facts and circumstances. But yes, the facts are really important, and telling the judge the correct facts is really important. And so you should not lie to the judge as a lawyer about what the facts of the case are, because that is that's a violation of your oath. But it can also come back and be negative to you and your client if the judge doesn't receive that well, and most judges probably don't receive being lied to well. But we start with the facts and the law together and figure out where the law applies. And even though we almost are celebrating, I think, our 250th anniversary of the Constitution, we're in year 249. There's a lot of gray area, and it's surprising how much gray area there is in how you apply the law to a certain factual situation, because the law is always developing, and we as a society are always developing, and so you have these fact patterns that are new. And I say this, so I'm just the trial judge. I do my best to follow the law. If they don't like what I do, I don't get offended. They can appeal to the appellate court. And I don't get offended by that. I learn what they do. I hope I'm not reversed that much, but that's just my job, is to rule and let them appeal if they need to appeal.
Yeah. Do you find that the Texas Constitution is nice and short and easy to work with?
I think you know the answer to that question. The Texas Constitution is a wonderful work of patchwork for various issues. It's very long. It's complicated. It's not like our federal constitution, which is fairly short and outlines exactly what it needs. But the Texas Constitution is easier to amend and to add to. There'll be several ballot, I think, votes this time around on adding things to the Constitution. But my job is to start with the Texas Constitution, the United States Constitution, and then go from there. But yes, the you know the answer to this question. The Texas Constitution I don't think it's unlike other states either. I think the other states are probably similar, that they put more in the Constitution uh, that definitely is a lot longer than the federal Constitution for sure.
Okay. How do you find elections to be? Do you like elections? Do you like events and stuff?
So it is a great reason to be in the community, and the community that my jurisdiction is the state of Texas.
Mhm.
Uh, and I sit in Harris County, so Harris County voters vote for you. And I do think it's a good way to go actually have to meet people and learn their experiences, and either what's really been great for them or what they're having issues with, on all sides and everything. I don't want to confine myself to just listening to Democrat voters or Democrat part of the population. You want to hear from everybody to see what they're going through. It doesn't mean that it changes what the law is, my court, because I've got to be guided by the statutes and the precedent of the courts. But it does help in understanding other people's issues. And we grew up in our own silo sometimes, and part of the election process is getting out of that silo and listening to and hearing what other people have grown, and that makes you, I think, a better person and hopefully a better judge as well. But it's a running for office is a full-time job. And so you have being a judge, which is a full-time job, and running for office is a full-time job. And so it gets really busy, and you have to take care of yourself too. So it can be a lot of work. And it typically, if you do it right, I think it is a lot of work. But it's what you sign on for, it's what you want to do. And I think it's important to do.
How do you maintain that balance between being a public servant and being a judge and sort of taking time and being a person? How do you maintain that?
So, good question, and let me know what your answer is. And I think with any profession, and law is this way, and being a judge is certainly this way, where uh, you can work as much as you want to work, and and study as much as you want to study, and you can campaign as much as you want to campaign, but that life balance is really, really important. And so, having a good exercise program, diet is essential to maintain. It's part of that balance in your life. Uh, and certainly, when we're elected, when you're a judge, you lose a lot of, uh, I want to say, freedom of speech issues. So I can't comment on an ongoing case or ongoing political issue necessarily, because that case may come before me, and ethically, I'm restrained from that. And again, I want everyone that comes to my courtroom and all the lawyers here to know that I'm going to take their case as it comes to me and not be influenced by the fact that it's a Democrat lawyer or Democrat or a liberal or a Republican or a conservative. Uh, that has no place in my courtroom unless there's actually a case against Republicans versus Democrats, and then that is, but I'm still neutral on that. And so if I have Facebook posts for or against a political issue, that's not going to really demonstrate that I can be a neutral jurist for any case and any person. And so that's really important for us, is to maintain that idea of impartiality and neutrality for everybody, and the respect for the rulings that we make in our court. It's sometimes difficult, frankly, that you want to comment on something. But as far as my social media, it's all about you know being a judge and my role in society, and if you're on my personal IG, it's about my dogs and my friends, right? So, but nothing commenting on politics or law or cases or even current events.
Do you think that the judiciary, in a theoretical sense, can escape party politics?
I think it should. I think the federal system definitely does. Uh, well, to some degree, right? Because they're all appointed by a president, and it happens on all sides of the aisle. Uh, the president will appoint someone who's more ideologically is associated with their party. But I think the federal system has taught us that because they're lifetime appointments, that they're not held to that. But I do think the federal system has proven to in terms of crisis, has persevered because they are lifetime appointments. It doesn't matter who appointed them. Uh, but I think for the most part, the the system has worked. And I do think our Texas system works. I do think it does work, as much as there may be concerns about electing on basis of party affiliation. I think it does work. And I need to make sure I clearly state that
Yeah.
we have many fine judges who take cases as they come to them, and don't let party politics or current events influence what they do.
I think the balance, it's very difficult balance in law because you have to, on one end, you want to do what Tocqueville says, and you want to get the guys, I guess Tocqueville and Republic, you want to get the guys who are really good at law and are going to be impartial judges. You want to hold on to them really tight until they can't do law anymore, right?
Right,
But on the other hand, you don't want to do that to someone who becomes partial and power corrupts them. I think that the last thing you would ever want in a legal system is a Machiavellian judge, right?
right.
That's probably, so the balance is between keeping the good people really close and keeping the bad people far away. And I think that this is just my opinion, but maybe if we had a better way to remove bad judges but maintain good ones. The problem is who gets to decide, right?
Well, and that's been an important dialogue in the last couple of years. And I don't know if you heard the new chief, Blacklock's state of judiciary, but he came out very strong that the courts can handle the courts, and that the Supreme Court in the Constitution has the ability to remove judges that it needs removed. And so that's a hot topic right now.
How do you find that balance? How do you find the balance between maintaining really good judges and putting away bad judges and not allowing them to continue judging?
I think accountability and transparency is important to every profession. And we have specific ethical codes that apply to us as judges, that are supposed to maintain our appearance of impropriety and making sure that we run a good court, and are fair and are efficient. Um, and so we have a there's a body called the Commission on Judicial Conduct, that exists that has the authority to sanction judges and ultimately remove them, which is a real severe thing to do. And people make complaints to them about judges, and then there's a process that's done. The Supreme Court has come out recently and has said that there's a constitutional provision in the Texas Constitution that allows them to do that, to address it directly. I and he says, I'm going to use his words, the chief's words, that there are about 2% of judges that probably should not be judging anymore or judging. And so they're looking at figuring out how to do that and remove those judges. I'm not part of that process. I don't want to be part of that process. Um, but it is an important part of the process that you can take a judge and hold them accountable, uh, give them an opportunity to fix, cure, and do things better. And then ultimately, if they're not going to do that, then maybe have the different person fill that spot. But that is a real tough place to go for a number of reasons, but also you're taking an elected official by a community and removing them from office. And that's also very important to remember, is that they're not just been appointed, they've been elected by their not just their peers, by their community. So but there are processes in place, and it is important for us to have transparency and accountability for sure.
Mhm.
It keeps us centered and focused on what we should be focused on. Uh, but it is a high bar to do that, and it's a high bar to be a judge, to follow all the ethical canons that we have to follow and do the things that we need to do correctly. Um, and again, one of those things is you lose part of your free speech, which is what we do. It's important. I think it's important for us to understand that.
On the flip side, how do you add judges? You mentioned that Harris County is looking to create more courtrooms, more judges. How does that process look?
Ah, well, I was the legislative chair of our 67 state district courts here in Harris County, and we're very excited. We think we'll get 5 more civil courts added this year. We were asking for 9, but I think we'll get 5. So what happens is that the county commissioners court, every county has a commissioners court, and they are responsible for funding a lot of the judiciary. In fact, the state pays for most of my salary and very little else. Everything else goes to the commissioners and the commissioners courts to fund the courtroom, the staff. They fund part of my salary. So if any court's created, then that's a monetary requirement of the commissioners court. So the first place you go is you've got to get the commissioners court to agree to fund a new court. And so when we did this process, we went to our commissioners court and asked them for 9 courts, 5 family, 5 civil, 3 family, and 1 juvenile court. They approved through a resolution that we get 5 civil courts. And so then you go to Austin and you find a friendly representative and or senator to carry that bill. And then it gets in committee, judiciary committees on both sides. There are lots of courts being requested around the state, and they take that up for consideration. Then there's a bill that's passed that has the number of courts you want in it, which happened, and then it goes to the governor's desk for it to be signed off. Our current the big court omnibus bill that has courts for a lot of different counties, the governor vetoed for what was stated for a specific reason, but not our courts related. And so it's going back in the special session, and hopefully, I've been told it will, our courts, as well as all the other courts, will come out. And then hopefully the governor signs that. If it's signed, then we have 3 state civil courts that are come online October 1st of this year. And there'll be 2 district clerks for each court. There'll be a bailiff for each court, a court reporter for each court, and then a judge. And as a judge, you get to decide if you take interns or law clerks, which are students and sometimes real lawyers at all. I have a robust law clerk intern program. We have 8 interns right now over the summer. all law school students. They've been through their first year of law school, and now they're waiting to go to their second year of law school. And I take law clerks, which are students that are usually 3Ls. They're in their third year, and they spend a lot of time just with me in the court. Uh, they've been through 2 years of law school, so they're more prepared to help. And that's an important process. So I can't guarantee that they will do that, but I definitely do that. And I find it helpful for me. Uh, and definitely, I think if you ask the law clerks or interns, it's a hard job. I don't take it easy on them at all, but that's how they grow and that's how they learn. They're doing a lot of legal research and presenting to me, and they have a lot of courtroom time. So it's definitely something to do. I'll just say this, you didn't ask the question. If I was in law school and I didn't know a lawyer, what I should have done, I think, is go intern at a civil court and learn all the various aspects of a civil court and how it functions and all the different kinds of cases it hears. I think that's a really valuable thing to do your first summer or even before you go in. Some judges will take college interns and some judges will take high school interns. Uh, they're kind of more observation, but if you're in my court, we put you to work. So I do think I'm going to put a plug in this. If you're thinking about going into law school, it's not a bad idea to see if you can intern for a judge. And if you're in law school, it's not a bad idea to try to intern or law clerk for a judge. And usually you can get course credit for that. And sometimes the court can even pay you. So we can subsidize this much. Again, the county pays for that. It's not nearly as much as the person is worth in chambers, but at least it's something.
I guess as a closing note, I have two questions. Um, on the drive to Austin, what's your go-to thing to buy at Buc-ee's?
I'd be very boring. Um, I try to be healthy, so I usually just go in there for a Coke Zero or maybe a Celsius or some energy drink to get me through. But the beef jerky is really good too.
And then on a more serious note, what advice would you give to someone who is in the sort of who's in the range of junior in high school to sophomore in college, and they're considering law, but they're not quite sure about it? What advice would you give them?
Well, I wouldn't be concerned that if you can do it or not do it. I see a lot of lawyers from various aspects, from various backgrounds, and take myself, a music education degree, never knowing a lawyer. And so it's not as if I couldn't do it. There's a period where I thought I couldn't do it and I was scared to do it. But you get into it and you're like, I can do this. So I wouldn't be scared about it. I would approach it like you would anything else, study up on it, watch some good movies about law and what you like about those and don't like about those. Law is a big practice. There are lots of things to do as a lawyer. Uh, and I would say go visit a judge, go work in a law firm and see if that's something that appeals to you. Uh, no, no law movie gets it right, but there are certain movies that are kind of fun uh, that can be real legal scenarios sometimes. And so if you're drawn to reading or writing, political science, history, or just interested in how things work, then law school may be a great place for you to go. And you can do a lot with a law degree that doesn't involve the law. With a law degree, you don't have to practice law. There are probably a lot of people in the White House that are working with a law degree that they're not practicing law. It's just a way to learn how to think, and exposure to what in the United States we deem important enough to make it law. And so I would don't be intimidated. Maybe go work for a law firm or a judge, go visit with them, uh, and watch some good legal movies and just realize that you don't have to be a specific type of lawyer. There's a lot you can do in the legal profession, and there's a lot you can do in the United States of America with a law degree that you don't practice law at all.
Okay, thank you so much for sitting down with me. This was a great conversation.
But thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.